What's going on, guys? This is Ryan from RK Outpost, and today I'm coming at you with some MCU news. Some pretty big, relatively recently breaking news. I think this happened about 2 hours ago. I started seeing people make videos about it, and to be honest, it's kind of stunning a little bit that Disney would have this kind of hiccup. At least it seems like a hiccup right now. So if you didn't know, Disney-Sony standoff ends Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige's involvement in Spider-Man. So essentially, the agreement that Disney had with Sony Pictures in order to use Spider-Man for the MCU, they could not come to terms to extend that arrangement. Now, I was under the impression that essentially we'd heard some rumors about it all depending on Far From Home, and if Far From Home made over $1 billion, then essentially he'd be safe in the MCU. If it made less than $1 billion, then the rights would automatically revert back to Sony. I did not know, I wasn't aware at the time of this other negotiations going on at all. So let's get into it just a little bit here. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige won't produce any further Spider-Man films because of an inability by Disney and Sony Pictures to reach new terms that would have given the former a co-financing stake going forward. A dispute that's taken place over the past few months at the top of Disney and Sony has essentially nixed Feige and future involvement of Marvel from the Spider-Man universe, sources say. So, if you didn't know, in the 90s, the Spider-Man character, the rights were sold to Sony. So, the Sam Raimi trilogies that are pretty well respected, that is from Sony Pictures. The Amazing Spider-Man movies, the Andrew Garfield ones that maybe are not so highly respected, those are Sony. Marvel made a deal with them on a 5-picture deal to bring Spider-Man into the MCU. So that included Captain America Civil War, the Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and Spider-Man Far From Home and Homecoming. Those are the 5 deals. So then they had to redo this negotiation. Now, Marvel and Disney was taking a pretty big risk, in my opinion, to, if this was right around the corner, make Spider-Man such a big part of what they seem to be doing with the MCU. They really spent a lot of time making Spider-Man into the guy who's going to take over the mantle for Tony. So it's just really surprising to me that they would come to the table and not be able to work this out with so much writing on it. Now, if you're Disney, I can understand, because we'll go a little further down here, and you can see there's a lot of webbing here, but it all comes down to money. It's easy to understand why both sides refuse to give ground. Disney asked that future Spider-Man films be a 50-50 co-financing arrangement between the studios. Sony proposed keeping the arrangement going under the current terms, where Marvel receives in the range of 5% of first dollar gross, sources say. So 5%, that's all that Disney is getting from the Spider-Man films. The rest is going to Sony. The rest of that money is going to Sony. So it is not a great deal from Disney's side of things to take all that production cost and all the marketing and everything like that and make him such a big part of their universe and only get 5% of the profits. So they come to the table, they want 50, Sony says no. From Sony's perspective, they don't have to take a whole lot of risk, and they're still getting a good chunk of money from these movies. Far From Home made over $1 billion. That's a big chunk of money. So to me, it's surprising these two couldn't work to terms. Obviously, Sony wants their character back because they want to put Spider-Man and make it their own Spider-Verse. With the commercial success of Venom around the world, it's not a surprise that they would want to do that. But to me, it just seems like a really big risk. And it's also a big risk for Disney to put so much invested in the Spider-Man character just to let him get away from you like that. So I don't usually cover too much Spider-Man or MCU news on this, but it's pretty shocking. As much as I'm kind of losing my interest a little in the MCU and what they're doing in the future, to me, Endgame was kind of a big wrap for 10 years of movies and the storylines of a lot of characters I cared about, and I kind of need a little bit of a break from it. I'm not super excited about a lot of what's coming out, but this is pretty huge news. And we haven't seen Kevin Feige or Marvel Studios fumble a whole lot over the past 10 years, especially not in the last few. Whether you like the direction they're going or not, they're making money, or at least seemingly making a lot of money. So pretty big misstep for them. I think ultimately that these guys are going to come to an agreement. I think there's too much at stake for Marvel to let it go, and I think Sony realizes that if they can even work that up to 75%, it's too good of a deal for them to pass up either, because they get a lot of money for not doing a whole lot. But what do you guys think? Were you kind of surprised by this news? I was pretty blown away by it. Do you think they're going to come to arrangement? Let me know in the comments. I'll talk to you guys later.